This program is rated MA. It contains adult themes, coarse language, sexual references, and violence.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Friday night, open comms. We all decided to wear hats because Matterall had one, so
except for Dirk,
except for a couple. Yeah, welcome to the show. So Blasphem's not here, but Dirk's here. I'm here. I'm Drayden. We got Rain, and we got Drunk Canadian, and then we got some guests tonight. We got Matterall with us. How's it going, man?
Good, man.
And then we got Sullen Decimus joining us.
How's it going?
And then Sword Dragon came with us as well.
Evening.
Trying to spice it up for the ladies with that Sullen Decimus.
That's right.
That's right. That's why I don't wear a hat, because I don't need to.
I got to show I still got a full head of hair.
Wish I would have known that you were gonna say that. I would have queued up the like, I can feel it in the night.
Easy now.
Whatever that song is, I wouldn't even know what it's called to search for it though.
But yeah, anyway, so we've actually got a big night tonight. This is one of the couple times a year where that we get to sort of go through. Well, I mean, look, semi-annually, right? We've got 2 summits a year for the CSM, and we've actually got some other news that we're going to get to first. But we're going to do our best to kind of burn through these minutes and talk about what it looks like kind of happened up there. I'm going to be honest, 77 pages of these things. It took me a little time to. Look, once again, I'm all about analog. I got the printed out version because that's just how I roll.
You wasted 77 pages of paper,
you actually
Dirk.
Printed out those
Did you
notes?
highlight and sticky note it too? Of like, oh, we should discuss this.
I did in fact highlight it. You can see the yellow highlighter on there. Yes, I did
ridiculous.
Highlight the things that
Oh my
that
God,
I
you
thought,
guys.
thought was interesting.
Matterall's got one too.
Matterall, I know Matterall printed out. He was at work when he printed out, and I printed it off on paper that I steal from the company, so it doesn't.
It's because baby boomers can't function without physical paper.
Baby
Have that
boomers are
hard
just
copy.
entitled to free paper, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever.
Hey, they can chop down.
If you work in an entitled job in an office, you get access to the paper.
They can use all the paper. You guys use all the paper you want. Idaho is supported by lumber dollars, right? So you guys just fucking print everything. Just do it.
You're saying Dirk's excessive printing is supporting all of Idaho?
No, just part of it. And actually, they had to cut down a lot of logging because Idaho was like,
got
yeah,
serious
clear
all of a sudden.
cutting's
Let's move
fine
on.
until the national government was like, no, stop. And we're like, oh, fine, fuck you.
Hey, you clear cut, you create a field, you can just plant more potatoes. Anyways,
Where will the elves live?
But yeah, we do have some things to talk about tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to get to it, which is why it's going to be another one of those open comm shows where we stay on freaking track, just like we have since the beginning of the year. We're going to continue that this week. You will also hear more about the minutes on Sunday on Talking in Stations. But yeah, so we're gonna we're gonna get into this fairly shortly here. What I do want to do is I want to give a shout out first of all to CCP Avalon. For people out there who don't know, they switched over on the forums some of the stuff like dev blogs and things like that to a different area. RSS feeds broke. So that broke it out on places like Total Eve. It broke it out on other people's websites and things like that. However, Avalon knew it was broken, okay, and thought that it was, I think, being worked on or whatever. But immediately upon being kind of told, hey, this is broken, bro, and we really need it, from a number of people out in the community, I think it was like 48 hours later, and it was fixed. So I do want to give a shout out to my man Avalon, who I know watches the show, and thank you very much for getting that done, because I use Total Eve as my kind of like exclusive go-to for where I want to see, what news is happening around, whether it's from the news sites or from Reddit or from podcasts or wherever. That's where I go, and dev blogs come through on there, as well as comments from devs out in the forums, Reddit posts, all these kinds of things. So it's sort of a really nice dashboard that I built for myself to kind of do what I do here, and I don't like the fact that things get broken like that. So thank you, Avalon, for doing that. The other thing that happened this week, and I want to mention it because I think that INN had some outstanding coverage, was the triumvirate Keepstar that ended up going down to the DRF earlier in the week. We're just going to mention it. It happened. Stuff's going on with Tri now that probably needs to be updated on. We don't have time for it tonight. But again, Matterall, are you planning on talking about that on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
He has food in his mouth. I think that's yes.
You wordy bastard.
He has food in his mouth. He's being polite.
I can actually say I was there, just not on the Citadel grid.
I was actually there, and in fact, my little alt is still there actually. So I should probably drive him home, one of these days. The one sad part was that after 6 hours of covering that, oh man, we missed the money shot. We missed the money shot. For some reason, something happened with the cameraman's camera, and we think it was that he was so far away that when it exploded in the tie-dye and everything else, that his graphics just glitched somehow.
That's what I think it was, because it wasn't the game that glitched, because people were posting, like Avarin's stream is showing it, and I actually went over and looked at Avarin's stream, and it was very nice slow motion explosion. So it was definitely the camera guy having some kind of graphical issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I never got to see it. We got there. We were supposed to be like a reinforcement, just kind of fuck around in fleet. We got there as all the rest of the goons were like running away. We're like, oh well, what do we do now? I guess we'll just camp the gate and shoot stragglers that are coming in.
I don't think there was too many left to run away.
Yeah, there wasn't, but yeah, we just shot ships coming in. But
yeah, I mean, what I will say about that is there was tie-dye. It did get to 10%. It wasn't the broken kind of tie-dye. I think there may have been a little bit of glitches, going on down there, but nothing that was extreme. Obviously, the attacking DRF side of the equation was able to take it down using the trebuchet, the tree bucket maneuver from way off away and all that kind of shit.
You get tree bucket
because I just like calling it tree bucket because it's. And here's what it is. Aerith said trebuchet like 4 times in one sentence. And ever since then, I've just been like, you know what? I just don't want to say trebuchet, but there's not a better word for kind of that thing.
But what does it actually mean? What does it actually mean?
A trebuchet is like it's an old medieval like catapult type.
Yeah, the catapults that it's not like just a catapult. It's like wham! It's like the things that have like the big basket or like counterweight, and it pulls, and then you have like the big rope thing that flings the rock, like there's like a big spiral flings the rock up and over. You've seen it like siege warfares and stuff. It's
a medieval siege weapon.
Yeah, it's actually called the trebuchet. It's French.
I kind of missed the trebuchet though. That was much better.
The trebuchet. But anyways, yeah. So so that happened. Obviously, look, Keepstars can die. They can die in tie-dye. And one of my concerns with that entire thing happening out there and it being a success is that CCP could sit back, breathe some sigh of relief and go, okay, we're sort of off the hook. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the things that are broken are still broken. But
I wouldn't go that far at all.
Okay.
I think that they're definitely watching. I can definitely be sure of that.
Well, that's good to know because I would hate to see that just because it is successful to do doesn't mean that there aren't a number of things that aren't broken or need to be tweaked or whatever regarding kind of the whole process. But anyways, we're gonna move on.
Just need more trebuchets.
Yeah.
Trebuchet.
We need a whole lot
once
less
or twice.
fucking trebuchets is what we need. But
that's a whole glass rain.
That is a whole glass rain. Of like a Keepstar as Minas Tirith, and then like all the trebuchets like replaced.
Just to have like a Keepstar instead of Minas Tirith there.
Yeah, exactly. So somebody needs to make a meme of that.
Let's do the Monty Python and throw cows over the gates.
I feel like cows would actually hurt somebody though. It'd be more like throwing kittens.
It's important to know
that doesn't do anything.
It's important to know that the Keepstar actually nearly repaired because the other side was too stupid to get their coordination correct, and it got down to 4 minutes before they paused it.
It did. It got. We were sitting there, and what was funny was that they actually sent a massive wave of fighters out first, and I said, and there was no tie-dye at the time, and I was sitting kind of in between the DRF Fortizar and the Keepstar, and I'm seeing these fighters just whiz across the field, right? And I'm saying, man, they're going to get there well before this thing comes out, and they actually had to lay these fighters up at a
mobile depot.
At a mobile depot that was off of the Keepstar a bit, and sort of orbit them there for a little while.
It was actually Brave that saved the day.
The one thing that confused me.
Paused the Keepstar.
Is that what actually did it? Because we couldn't see.
Yeah, Brave's Jackdaws paused the Keepstar while they died, while everyone got in position.
Yeah, the thing that confused me, and I'm sure there was a reason for it. Obviously, I wasn't
your
in any kind of
confusion?
intel channels, but like, goons, they were like, the third party, but they were essentially, not necessarily like helping Try because they wanted to see it live, just mainly because they wanted to shoot Horde more than Try. And so they were kind of over on that side, and then all of a sudden they go zooming over and they warp right onto the Fortizar, like right into the middle of like all of Horde's shit with no backup or help anywhere around them with their Cerberuses, and then they all died there very shortly after. It's like, what was that an accidental fleet warp, or was there an actual strategy with them going over there?
They were going after Apostles and I think some of the carriers that that were there, and I mean at first, again,
they thought they were going with like a surf
point, I couldn't tell exactly what they were happening.
Home too.
I couldn't tell exactly what was happening, and I was commenting, at the time saying, okay, what are they doing over there? Do they actually have tethering rights, or I'm like, are they laying up over there? And somebody's like, no, they're attacking. They're attacking what's going on over there. And I think it actually pulled a DRF fleet, subcap fleet that was out there shooting at the Keepstar at the time back.
It pulled a lot back. I remember we were joking about it because we were like, what did Try just offer Imperium to make them go do that? Because it pulled a lot of DPS off the Keepstar.
One person that should get a shout out is Skill Yourself. They did a 1,500 kilometer boosh of their fighters from the Keepstar to the Fortizar to kill the hostile caps.
Oh wow!
It's not been done before.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So there were definitely some things that were happening there. I think it will take, again, I think that we had good coverage on INN. We had people from various sides there talking. Grath was there talking, obviously. We had some people from the DRF that came in to kind of tell us what was sort of going on and whatnot. But we'll now need to get some sort of after action sort of thing. Maybe Talking in Stations will handle that on Sunday, or we'll do it in a future week. Because look, I mean, we did have the successful kill of another Keepstar in EVE Online. And that probably demands a bit of coverage. However, tonight's not that night. What I do want to do is I want to move on because we've got an update coming on Tuesday. It is going to include, as we know that we've been talking about for the last couple weeks, it's going to include the Upwell Structures 2.0 release. So all of those things, the changes that we've been talking about for 2 weeks, are coming up on Tuesday. There's also some other stuff going on here. Brain, do you want to tell us about what's going on with Guardians Gala real quick?
Yeah, so Guardian Gala was the event last year. It was, I think people just called it like the Valentine's Day event, and obviously it's coming out next week on the 13th, so right before Valentine's Day. But it's just the classic sites around space, all regions, high sec, low sec, null sec, wormhole space. It's kind of one of those easy things that alphas can get involved in, or omegas. Fly in, you shoot some rats. In particular, these ones are Serpentis themed rats. You shoot them, kill them, then you get loot. And then I know this time around they're giving out the Eros Blossom skins, which is the second set of skins that have pink in them, and they're absolutely beautiful. I'm hoping Drayden is bringing it up on screen.
It's funny because the Guardian Gala is just going to be known as the skins event because this is the second year now that they've had some of the best free skins, I think.
Okay.
From an event.
Yeah.
The skins that are coming with the Guardians Gala event are the Spirit skins. They're more ships in the Spirit skin line. I thought it was
Arrow skins.
Okay. Also, as part of this release on Tuesday, are the Erotica Flux skins or whatever they are.
Eros Blossoms.
Eros Blossom skins. Those are going to be in the
Wait, so which ones
store.
Which ones are the Spirit ones then?
I don't know exactly.
Are you talking? Because last year
the Eros ones are going to be in the New Eden store. Those are the pink skins that are going to be in a different line.
Okay.
I don't know what the spirit skins are exactly. I don't think we have images of that here. But what it says is with all manner of rewards up for grabs, including a new line of spirit skins for additional hulls. So I'm saying that maybe the skins that were given out last year for Guardians Gala were also spirit skins. I don't know.
I think they were just called Guardian Gala skins, and they look similar to the Yulai Festival skins or the Glacial Drift ones, but they were like red and white instead of blue and white, and they were actually really, really cool. I knew I flew around with the Tristan one for a while.
Except for the Epithal one. The Epithal straight up looks like a used tampon.
What's wrong with tampons?
Nothing. Just
nothing's wrong with tampons, but yeah, used ones.
Wait, there's a second set of these because I think the ones I got up right now are the first pink ones that we
Eros,
saw.
yeah, the Eros Blossom ones.
These look purple to me.
So if you look, it's the bright pink fade to purple, and they're called Blossom because they kind of look like flower petals. At least that was my interpretation of it.
Or maybe it's just because they're pink and they wanted to have like a girly name to it, so Blossom.
Maybe, I don't know.
I like the Wyvern one in this. Although it does kind of look like a dildo with the pink on it,
but hopefully pink is the whole pink thing is not. This will not be the last time we talk about it tonight.
What are you talking about?
The other element of the release that's coming on Tuesday is the Assault Frigate rebalance that's coming, as well as the Assault Damage Control. Those are things that we talked about last week with Suetonia. So yeah, that's coming Tuesday. Wake up, the world is changing. And getting a little pinker, I guess.
You know what these look like? The ones with camouflage and pink? It looks like that skin disorder like Michael Jackson had.
Being white?
Really?
Don't know what you mean.
Being white isn't a disorder. It's a privilege.
I don't know.
Oh, it's a privilege.
No, I forget. I don't know what it's called.
Although I would like to get that for my AI.
I forget it's
kind of cool.
Although I've seen someone that actually has that, and it, like, I don't know. Not to get into the whole Michael Jackson tangent, but
yeah, that's good.
That's good. That's good.
Anyways, so that's about it there. The next story actually comes out related to the release of the minutes, but it was actually on the front page, and that is that we have got some changes coming to the election this year. There's been a lot of people out there asking, "Hey, what's going on with the CSM election? Wouldn't this be the time
thanks
of
for the
year
5
where,
months
like, people are running?" I think there are like 6 people who are actually declared at this point out on the forums. There were 7. Jay McLean dropped out, so it's down to 6 at this point. And
everyone's votes gone.
Everybody's like, well, where is this going? And I had been tagging Garden Falcon for, I don't know, maybe a week and a half now, and a week and a half ago I heard there'll be some news coming out soon or whatever, and as this started to kind of like lag on a little bit, I'm like, oh man, I wonder if something happened at the summit, and they're waiting for the summit minutes to come out. And sure enough, when they released the summit minutes, they also had this note in there about the election that there are some changes that they're making to that. One of those changes is that they are going to be pushing the election. It looks like late spring, early summer. They have not given dates yet. They have not given dates yet about when you as a candidate need to have your information in or anything like that. This term, go ahead.
Didn't they talk about making FanFest the kickoff of the season?
Well,
it's not a date, but
in the minutes, it does actually in the minutes. It then begins to clarify a little bit of some of this stuff, the discussion surrounding it, and we'll get Sort in here in a second to kind of give us some background on it. But I just kind of wanted to go through sort of the things. It's going to allow for a longer campaign period, which they think is important. They think it's important for people like us in the media who they think want to cover 50, 60 freaking candidates or something like that, which is not true. We don't. We only want to cover people that have a chance.
Favoritism.
But it's gonna do that. It's gonna be less time reserved for CCP to do back end stuff.
You heard it here. If you're not on open comms, you don't have a chance.
No, that's not true at all. But,
the kingmakers.
An overall compressed election process. So basically, we had a 3-week election process before, and I think they're backing that down to 1 week.
Yeah. So the election time will be 1 week, because they were saying that they're like almost. They didn't put an actual percentage number. They said the vast majority of the votes come in on the first day, and the last day of the elections.
And the last day, whatever that is.
And so they're like, take out all the time in between. The time in between isn't that important, but they still want to give a week, obviously, so it's not like a one-day thing. But yeah, so they figured there's no point in making the election process 3 weeks, just make it 1 week. And also they're going to spend less time. They're going to make it a shorter period from when the elections are finished to when they actually just release the results, because CCP is like, we don't need to, I mean, it's all, automated. Right. Basically, we don't need to like go through the process of what happens. Just like, here's who won.
Yeah, they don't actually have to physically count votes, so therefore there doesn't need to be as much time after the vote ends between when they announce it, right? So there's going to be a week of voting, which we know is nothing but a tactic for voter suppression. I think the other part where they're asking for photo ID for voters is a little hardcore as well, but whatever.
That's discrimination.
It's going to be hard getting that high-sec vote out with only a week.
I know. It's okay, because the primary high-sec candidate is now in Bastion.
So one of the main reasons they did this is we brought up at the summit that a lot of the time when the FanFest comes along, people find out, oh shit, I forgot to vote. That's one of the things that comes out. A lot of people will come and watch CCP on the streams at FanFest and then realize that CSM was actually a thing. Whereas if they announce at FanFest that it's going to become a thing, the hype around FanFest would draw people to actually vote.
I could see that, but at the same time, it's like, doesn't the whole voting thing come up on the launcher? I mean, I know not everyone pays attention to every single thing on the side of the launcher, but it's like, you open the launcher, and before you launch your client, it's like, vote now. It's like, vote on what?
Yeah,
look at it.
Yeah, but you're also talking about we're now so accustomed to that it's like, if you ask me what was on the launcher the last week, I couldn't even tell you a single thing. I don't care.
But also, a lot of people don't come back to the game as well until they see like the hype at FanFest and see all the streams and all the discussions and the roundtables and stuff like that. And that's what people coming back to EVE to try again, or after they've had a hiatus. And the other reason why they did it is because the summer at CCP is dead. There is literally nothing going on. The channels are completely quiet. It's better to do onboarding at that point, where by the time that the devs come back at around about the end of August or the start of August, depending on when they do their holidays, everyone's onboarded, everyone has access to HipChat, and everyone's fresh and ready to go.
So I got a question then. Does that mean that your terms, like you guys, are now pushed back to how long you're on term then?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on until the elections. So obviously, as I said, they're going to hold the date in until they're ready to release, until they've done everything that they want to, and then so we're on hold till then.
I think what they should do, is call that interim period from FanFest until the actual election takes place. I think they should call that CSM 13. And then you can get that bad luck CSM out of the way, because we know that CSM 13 is going to be a bad luck CSM.
I know who would ever want to run for something with CSM and 13 in it. I mean, I don't.
Dirk, Corcus God just gifted you an Imperium News subscription, so now you actually can.
Oh no!
You can be.
Dirk's finally a subscriber.
Corcus God, you gifted me one of those on the Meta Show like 2 weeks ago, but it's still got 2 weeks left in it. But thank you very much, my man. Here's to you.
So you're double sub?
That's the only way I get to use cool emotes, because being an employee, we don't even get to get cool emotes.
How does that even work if you already have a sub?
I don't know, just
have like another month, I guess.
Are you sure you were sub? Because I didn't think that you could gift a sub to someone that already was a sub, unless
maybe just tax on time.
Yeah, it might just tack on.
I think it just tax on the time. Yeah.
I think it just tax on the time.
But thank you, my friend. So that will extend their term out to that point, and then of course the next one will go on for the year from there, unless they change it again next year or something. But I don't know. I think overall it's not a bad decision to have moved it off. To the summer. I think it's kind of crazy to have election season sort of run over the Winter Summit the way that it has for the last few years.
That and the FanFest and all that stuff, and that's what they were mentioning in there, is that summertime is kind of like a lull, and so that's like the best place to put it.
Well,
you people can say 13 doesn't matter, but 13
it was really
matters,
funny because when I was on there, I don't know if you remember, but people were going, "We haven't heard anything from the CSM." Like, I think it was in September or August, and we just laughed a little bit because it was like, most of the people complaining a lot of times were Americans because they don't understand that it's like, no, in Europe, like, basically for 3 months everything's done, nothing's happening because, when you got everyone that has 30 days of vacation it's hard to plan anything.
And why can't we have that here?
It also came about that people had found out that, like, a lot of the time after FanFest, where people would want to get information, because a lot of the time CCP will start a patch, announce it at FanFest, and then release it 2 or 3 weeks later. And any kind of iterations that could be done, it would be very hard to work out who to talk to. Was it the new CSM coming in or the CSM going out? Because a lot of the time, the CSM going out just disconnects and goes on walkabout unless they're running again. So getting that information from people who watched the streams for FanFest was actually quite hard to get back to the devs.
Yep. So, okay, so that's the news about the CSM election. You're probably going to hear more about it in, I don't know, maybe a month. I would say maybe in a month they'll come out with something that says, when candidates need to get their shit out or things along those lines. But we are basically pushed off to... And we'll, and maybe we'll get to it in the minutes tonight. But in the minutes, they talk about the fact of, having FanFest be sort of the kickoff for the campaign itself. So that may be what they'll announce at FanFest are the actual candidates, the vetted candidates kind of a thing. So yeah, so everybody out there who is planning on running, guess what? You still have some more fucking time. Let's see here. What do we got? That's it. You know what? We're gonna get into the summit minutes at this point, but sort of a front end to that. When the minutes dropped, okay. A few of us were sitting in channels talking and beginning to do one of two things. I was beginning to bring up the PDF and read it while my printer went to work doing duplex, actual printing of it and shit like that. But we started to hear something about Sort talking a lot at the summit. And in fact, like, people were already pulling statistics together showing that, what was it? I think it's something like there were 367 mentions in the minutes of a CSM member's name. And of the 367, Sort had 175 mentions. And so I kind of want to get the elephant out of the room. Sort, were you talking a lot up there?
Yeah, of course I was. That doesn't mean that any other CSMers should be put to the side on this. Just because I was talked a lot, that could mean that I said a lot of things that weren't NDA'd. So just want to cover my ass a little bit there.
There's that. Yeah, because I was asking when I started reading these minutes, I was saying to them, I was like, was Sort the only guy at the CSM summit this year? Because it seemed it was like him and CCP, and then like a few like cameo show-ups of everyone else.
Sort, what are you gonna do every time you talk then? Is you just gonna have to like put like a leak in there or something, like, oh yeah, I agree, this is happening, by the way, Structures 2.0 or something like that, so then they don't like put it in.
I don't particularly care so much about new features. I care more about iteration of old features, and iterations of old features don't always get covered under an NDA cloud because they're already things that exist in the game, so it's easy to talk about them.
I thought it was interesting where you said, like, CCP really shouldn't put any new features into the game for the next something like 8 months. It's just reiterate on the stuff that you already have in the game that's not working. And I thought that was pretty interesting. By the way, did I quote you correctly there?
Yeah, well, the stats... Okay, so I don't know how many of you played back in the day, but there was a patch a few years ago called Crucible, where in Crucible they basically took... They put out to the public, they said, what do you think... would be the most important things that you would like iterated on in, say, the next 6 months. And they whittled it down to about 20 points, and they worked on those points. And the sub-rise, the statistics are there. The sub-rise after Crucible was massive, and it was a constant. And that word got used a lot during this summit, bring back a Crucible. And obviously, obviously I can't tell you what CCP said, but I asked them at one stage, are you scared to not bring out new content at least once?
So are you saying that the decline was because they didn't do a Crucible-like expansion beforehand?
Well, Crucible wasn't Crucible the response to the fact that they had just fouled everything up so much that they just did an entire expansion that was
Crucible, for people who don't know, okay, was the big was the winter expansion following the Summer of Rage, okay? So the Summer of Rage 2011 happened. There was a lot of outcry about things that were broken in the game and things like that. And CCP said, you know what? We're We're going to start fixing little things. It's going to take us about 18 months. It took them about 3 years or so. But the first step in that was the Crucible expansion.
Now that was that's not the one that introduced tier 3 battle cruisers, was it? Like the Tornado and Naga? That was the one right after that, right?
Was that one or the one after? I think they split it up.
I think it was the one right after, because when I came into the game, the tier 3's battle cruisers had just come in, and so Crucible was the first expansion I got to see playing this game.
No, actually, I think that actually was the one before that. I don't know. I'll have to look.
Yeah, because I remember like the first expansion released when I started playing, like 2 months later, Crucible came out.
The reason that it's brought up, and the reason that Sort brought it up, is because it was the expansion where they basically said, you need to listen to the players. The players want you to fix the game. No more new features. Fix the game. And that's what Crucible represented. It was a laundry list of things that had been broken for a while, and they were going off it. I think the list came from Soundwave, or at least he took credit for it. And they went through and they started fixing a bunch of stuff that had been broken, and that was to make peace with the players who were angry that they'd wasted 18 months on Incarna, which hadn't produced very much at the time.
Well, it was weird.
It's a mic drop.
And done.
Well, I was just saying, because it was weird, because like it was the first expansion I saw, but it was weird to me because it put my mindset for the expansions, because I was like, oh, okay, so it's just a bunch of tweaks and fixes and stuff like that. So like, I was thinking like expansions would be like new stuff, like you see expansions in other games, they bring out new stuff. And so like it was the first expansion I saw, and it wasn't anything new. It was like, oh, okay, so this is what expansions are.
See, when Drayden was first born into the game, he was born into fixes, and he hasn't seen them since.
Well, and it's like then when the first expansion came out that added new stuff, I was like, whoa. Okay, they do come out with new stuff in the game.
And I think when Sort brings it up, there were a lot of people mentioning Crucible. Then it's like saying we're there again, and that's what I was getting at.
So the issue is that it's not as much about completely Crucible. It's every time, and a solid window this being on CSM, every time a new thing comes out in the game, the line of "Don't worry, we'll iterate on it" comes out. And the problem is that I think it's in the minutes I said this, is we've heard this too many times. And so many SOV would be iterated on, Jump Fatigue would be iterated on, Citadels would be iterated on. The first Structures 2.0 was nearly 2.5 years after release. And it's just too long to iterate on something when 2.5 years in EVE is the equivalent to 30 years.
Well, and I thought that was interesting because you were saying, like, fix things that are broken in the game, and I thought they called your bluff when Orca said, well, what if we take stuff out of the game that isn't working?
That's fine. We answered and said that's fine. Like,
and the whole CSM basically nodded their head and went, okay.
I mean, that's Resource Wars, right? Like, that was released, people really didn't do it, so CCP is just stopping that.
So one of the issues that came up is that a lot of the time, if they don't iterate on stuff, they'll just leave it there and hope it goes away. Or people stop using it. And so you end up with this dead blocks of features inside the game that should just be removed. And we tried to iterate that the players would accept that if it was said, okay, we fucked up on that, we couldn't do it, it's gone, bye. We drag it out of the game, we'll try something else. But instead, they leave it in the game and they don't iterate on it, and it just goes on and on.
Well, this is the thing. They leave it in the game and they hope that it'll go away. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what does make sense to me is that other people might play it that don't play other things like PvP and nullsec and all the bigger stuff that you represent. So I'm wondering if they leave it in for other players to enjoy, or at least to try to discover and see if they like it. If not, they go through. But it's more gameplay that's different than the usual, thing that people sign up for EVE to play. And the reason I ask that is because the way that I think devs look at this game, or at least it was described to me by Fozzie, was that EVE is like 36 different games in one. And that gives 36 different opportunities for somebody to find what they like.
So that's the problem you have with that is that if you base your whole design on 10% of the people play it, it doesn't work. Because if you iterate on a game of 5 people play that every Wednesday, we should keep it in the game. That doesn't mean it should be kept in the game. It means that maybe you should get rid of it because maybe there's something you could bring in that more people would play.
The way I see it, this game is old. There are a lot of people with built-in advantages who've been here a long time with knowledge and been here a long time gathering wealth. And if you don't give people a chance to feel like they have a way of competing, like, say, newer people in the last 3 years, that it becomes a hopeless endeavor to try to either join the people who are already established or never feel like you're successful if there's only one style or one rating of success.
I would like to coin the term tonight, bitter vet privilege.
So there's not okay. So just to say, beta vet privilege doesn't exactly exist because a lot of people that are beta vets will actually play something new, or play something old that's been iterated on. They don't just want to play the old same things because it's not fun for them. Some people do, but a lot of the player base doesn't. And the reason we know that is because we see the statistics at the summits, and when we see we get massive pages of statistics. And we're like, okay, if there's only 10% people using that, why do you still have it around? Oh, because we haven't got the teams to go and iterate on it. And so then we ask, well, why don't you just take it out of the game and work on something else?
And you said that met with a lot of approval from CSM?
From other CSMs, or you mean from CCP?
From CSM.
A lot of the time, I mean, I don't know what's in the minutes. I haven't exactly seen the particular features page, but a lot of the time, it was pretty much unanimous across the CSM. Even people like Steve, who would only stick to sometimes being IT stuff, he even got in on it as well and started saying, look, we haven't seen changes to play the things inside the game.
I think they said it was a mixed discussion. So I don't.
I remember when I was on, I was literally in discussions with CCP about like the industry tax system and how just absolutely fucked it is. How it's just like such a heaping pile of garbage in the way that it works. And they're, this is actually, good. We really need to work on this. We're literally coming to the end of another CSM later, and it's still not even there. And then I looked on the minutes, and they still don't even consider that a high priority. And I'm like, I don't understand how that's not a priority. Like, this system literally impacts any structure owner in the game, and it's terrible. It's absolutely
everything
terrible.
Is a priority. It's just where it is on the list of priorities.
Right, but like something like that, that's not even like, you're telling me that reworking the industry tax equation is so intensive developmental wise that you can't dedicate anyone, but you can dedicate a ton of people to create resource wars, which nobody cares about. Like, so you're telling me
that's what they found out, was that nobody cared about it. So now they're not doing anything with it. They're going to back away, and they might delete it, with the backspace key.
They think that like structure industry taxes is just a minor thing, but it's not a minor thing. It's huge.
All right, but what I do want to go into here before we actually get into details that are out in front. Look, within the summit welcome part of the minutes, there was actually quite a bit that was in there. CCP Hell Bunny was there in place of CCP Seagull. And for people who don't know, CCP Hell Bunny is Sean Decker, the person who came in from EA back in, I think it was 2013. He is the lead game developer, and I know he's on the strategy. I know he's on. He's not the executive producer of EVE Online. He's a senior vice president at CCP Games, and is known as the lead game developer. So therefore, he crosses over multiple games at CCP. But anyways, he's on the strategy team, and he was sitting in for Seagull, who, as we know, is out on maternity leave and things like that. Was there anything in the welcome?
Wait, Dirk. There's an important point that you just stepped over, and that was that he was the leader of game, let's say, development, right? And a lot of people were worried when EA came into CCP because you're talking about a culture that follows EA that some people don't like or reject. And so it was okay as long as there were many games that he was touching, and he was probably there to do VR and those kinds of things because that's when he came in to do that sort of thing. But those games have gone away. And to see him appear then inside of EVE, and speaking on behalf of the executive producer, you have to start thinking how much influence this guy got over EVE. Because he's from EA.
So to re-clarify, he's not speaking on behalf of the executive producer, he's speaking as a member of the strategy team. He doesn't speak on her behalf at all.
Okay, I meant when he came in and said hello to everybody and greeted them, and that's not important, but he is on the strategy team. That is important. Was he there before, or has he always been there?
The strategy
team has been there for about 5 years.
On the strategy team, okay.
And you got to remember the strategy team is up. And again, when we when and if we ever get to the fucking strategy segment of the summit or whatever, there's actually a little bit of an explanation in there about what the strategy team is relative to EVE Online, right? It is not handing down dictates or anything like that. It is there as kind of a secondary mechanism for helping to guide, but not necessarily, again, handing down dictates. But the reason I bring up the fact that he was there is because Seagull was not there, right? Seagull continues to be out on maternity leave. God bless her. Hope she's doing well. But he was there, and he did a lot of speaking and answering during the first part of this. And while I have a lot of highlights about this, as I got deeper into the minutes, a lot of the things that are in here that I had highlighted were actually brought up. And I'm not sure if anybody else saw anything or wanted to comment about the Summit welcome before we move on to some other more detailed area.
So I just want to say something along the lines of when you guys say, especially about the Crucible thing, that was not said in one Summit. It was spread out across the whole Summit. I think if they put it in the minutes, Crucible would be said more than my name and more than CCP's name. The idea of the whole, we went into the Summit as the CSM, and I can't talk for other CSM members, with more work needs to be done on the game itself instead of bringing in new features, including the welcome and including other times as well. It wasn't just one particular time. It got brought up in pretty much every session.
Well, and then it's important to note that this CSM is pushing CCP to fix the game, not to create new gameplay or content or features. Is that correct?
So I'd like to clarify on that. It's not fix the game, it's iterate on things that they put into the game, because there's the definition of fixing the game is different from each person that you ask.
Yeah, Matterall, I could iterate on you, but I can't fix you. Nothing can fix you, Matterall, but we can iterate.
Well,
we can make a Matterall 2.0.
I think it's funny that someone just pointed out to me, one of my friends just brought up the ability to self-destruct your own pods within the structure is being added as well. And then he said, what the fuck? Why did this take 2 years to get?
So one thing I'd like to say is a lot of these...
The self-destruct code, bro.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, something that comes up a lot of the time in these summits is that we found that a lot of the instructions for the teams was coming from above. And those teams would be working on things that they're told to work on or that they've agreed with the strategy team that they would work on. And a lot of these small iterations are devs taking time out of their free time to do. Where they, like, the balance team is literally CCP Rise when he has time. Like, there is, like, that's the balance changes of the Assault Freaks that you came with. He had time and he did it. Things like that Larrikin will do, it's when he has time that he can do it aside from something else. If he has like a spare 10 minutes, he'll look at stuff and try and iterate on it. And that's one thing that I want to put forward as a CSM, is a lot of people shit on these devs and they say, oh, they're not fixing the game, when in reality, they just want to do the things in their spare time because they aren't a priority for their team. And that's not because the team has decided or whoever's decided. I'm just saying a lot of the small changes you say, oh, why can't they bring that in? It's because they're doing it in their spare time.
I guess what they were addressing more is why does that have to be a spare time thing?
Exactly, and that's exactly the whole point of why we went into the summit. Is we gave them a list of things.
Yeah, we're on the same page there then. Okay, that's what I was...
Yeah, it's just directing the pitchfork at the wrong people and saying why can't they do this? Well, it's not that they don't want to; it's that maybe they don't have the time to do it at the time.
Where's their workday go then? Did you say it was creating new things?
So. No, it's whatever has been decided for that team. Either the team has decided to do it, or it's been decided by the strategy team. If that makes sense.
Right, but it's not iteration, is what you're saying. Iteration's taken care of by people who feel the angst and want to.
Well, no, iteration, like Structures 2.0 was an iteration, right? Like it was an iteration that was decided by the company to do on. So it's not that all iteration is done by the spare time, but I'm talking about like that particular thing, like pods. That is something that was done in spare time of a dev. Like that's the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah.
The small things that you consider such like, oh my god, how couldn't they have done that? Well, that might be something someone did in their spare time because they thought it was something good.
Yeah, well, I think Karkar built ghost fitting on her spare time too. At least he experimented with it at home, I heard. So...
Anyways, one of the things I do want to point out that in the overall minutes, you will notice that there was, I believe, not a specific breakout section for faction warfare. There was not a specific breakout session for wormholes.
I did see that. I noticed that. There's no wormhole segment.
So that was requested. New men requested a wormhole session. They just didn't have anything, and
were they discussed?
It's maybe 10 minutes the whole summit. almost.
Oh.
I mean, look,
and I mean,
we have to be honest for wormhole people. Okay, we have to be honest for wormhole people. You got fucking moon mining. Shut the fuck up and just keep being wormholers. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
Like,
Well, no, that's
what I literally
thing,
joked
right?
with Noobman
They got all
about
the money
yesterday.
in there, though.
I mean, that's what Noobman basically said. Hooray, we can now moon mine. That's
You guys should-
that's thing. And for someone like him, he's a great CSM member, but like there was not much that he could do at the summit. Like he could talk about structures, he could talk about certain like balance changes and stuff like that. But in reality, he's there as a wormhole candidate, and there's nothing going on with wormholes.
There should have been a session because apparently wormhole rats are really difficult to fight. They're worse than nullsec rats for an alpha.
We'll talk about it in the after show. How Drayden got killed by fucking wormhole rats. We're not going to like diverge off now because we're holding.
We
it
got
together,
too much to go on, but
you know, again, was there anything in the summit welcome sort of Q1, Q2 overview section that we feel like we need to talk about? Because again, a lot of these things are carried on. I mean, we could actually go through this, and it provides a bit of a summary of what you will see throughout the minutes. We could do that because there are like questions in here that Sean Decker answers and or at least responds to and things like that, or we can move on into other more specific sections.
I can, from a personal point of view, I can say one thing: the roadmap shocked me. It shocked me to the core of looking at and this is why the reason why the game became so much about iterations is because what we saw in the roadmap.
The lack of distance in the roadmap.
No, there's a distance going to the sun and back. There's a massive amount of distance. Like they've got a plan in everything like that.
Okay.
It's just what's on the roadmap and what isn't on the roadmap of what we consider should be on the roadmap.
If that's shocking, that should be shocking to everybody.
And just so people are. Look, I'm sorry. Like I joked with that about Noobman. That was my joke with Noobman. That was not my general response to the fact that there was not a specific breakout session here for wormholes or for faction warfare. But what that should indicate to everybody out there is right now, with where CCP is at, with what they need to talk to the CSM about, wormholes are not on the table. Faction warfare's not on the table, even though it does.
Well,
they are because they got what they
thing.
wanted with structures. I mean, the only thing they really were wanting is they wanted to have the self-destruct break tether. Got it. They wanted to make it so you can assemble capital ships in a container. They got that. I mean, they've literally gotten everything that. When I say they, I don't mean they as in all wormholers. I say very specific entities because I did not agree with a lot of the things that were granted.
Maybe that's why you didn't get reelected, because you didn't agree.
No. If I lost because of the wormholer vote, I mean, I would be shocked.
Maybe your wormhole vote didn't come through.
That's that 4%, man. That 4% kicked you in the ass.
Anyways, I do want to move on to kind of the next section because I enjoy the reviews of these things. Literally, I have sat there and done these things for 6 hours. Where I do freaking reviews of almost every paragraph in the minutes. We're not going to be able to get to that tonight, but I want to get through. Does anybody have anything to say about the second section on the agency and UI?
Not a whole lot of like just like a couple things I saw in there that was like that I'm like, hell yeah, that'd be cool. Is the corp oriented missions. That sounded like a really cool idea. And if CCP is going in that direction, that could be pretty sweet. That could give almost like I mean, for people that like the PvE but want to go out and null to have the nullsec life, I guess that it could transition a little bit of that in there, like give people to do that are in between fleets. They don't want to go out and mine, they don't want to go rat, but they don't want what do I do? And also you could just like, hey, I mean, depending on the parameters that they could set with this thing, I mean, you could like have your hordes of goons go out and do various stuff. Like when it comes to, if they like for moon reshuffles, I don't know if they're going to do that again, but I'm just saying like that as an example, like to go scan all this stuff, you could have all these corporations and alliances set missions for that. And that would just give people incentives and automatic payout methods. So they don't have to like worry about, trying to do all this API shit to like, pay people out.
I don't think that what the whole thing on the agency was a what if the agency could do this. It was more about the agency as it sort of exists, sort of.
Right. I was just saying that was. I mean, yeah, the state of the agency. I don't really use it, so it's like. I mean, it seemed like it was fine. There were some concerns brought up. I'm just saying, like that was something that people brought up, and that CCP said, "Yeah, we're looking into that." And I'm like, if they end up bringing that out, that could be a really big implementation and cool thing to do.
So the amount of the one thing that there is definitely getting iterated on in CCP is the agency. They're one of the teams that we probably had not the best interaction with, but the most note taking on their end. We got to put a lot in of what we considered ideas, and they had kind of a blank slate to decide what they wanted to do with it. So they were able to, you could just throw ideas at them and they would say yes or no, and they said, oh, that's possible, thank you for doing that. So there's a lot of the times when you see there, what about this, what about this, what about this, they actually put them down in their notes, and it's things that they will consider, like the missions, the court missions, we suggested that and they said, oh, we'll have a look at it. And it wasn't definitely a pushback, it was definitely a, okay, that could be interesting because of the clean slate that they have.
I personally skipped over this section. Okay, I didn't skip over. I skimmed it. I didn't highlight anything because there wasn't anything here that I really wanted to get to, because other stuff I really wanted to get to was further on. So again, I am asking if you've got something strong to say about this section of the agency. Let's talk about it. But
I think the roadmap for that.
This is their new
clear,
tool. This is their new tool, right, for this kind of stuff, right?
Well, I imagine they're folding a lot of things, a lot of old tools into the new tool to give a person context of what's around them, which is probably an important concept if you think about it. If you're new to the game, at least when we started, you didn't know what the hell was going on out there. You had to read about it somewhere else or be told about it, but everything around you looked normal and fine. And you couldn't really find anything unless you figured out which windows to look into, and it became pretty archaic and you had to just basically learn how to play the game in order to have fun. I think the big push is to make the game fun for people who are coming in as soon as possible. And that is a big part of it, give them context about what's around them, seeing what they can get involved with right away. And really, they're just adding more and more things into it. So it seems to me like, I don't know, it's just a matter of like taking stuff out of other tools and putting them in that one tool with a map.
Yep.
Did I just say the obvious? Like,
kind of. Well, I mean, look, it's their new tool that they're using for this stuff, and it started off small, and now they're going to iterate on it and things like that. There are a number of suggestions in here. I just have to say that for me personally, and it just wasn't all that interesting. I don't know, mainly because I was wanting to get onto section 2, which was player experience and team security, banning, and customer service. Okay, and while I was reading this, there were several of us sitting and talking in Station's Discord that were talking about it at the time, so it took me a really long time to read it and shit like that. And then I was out there asking noisy things and whatnot. This goes into a number of things, most notably account hacking, real money trading, and then botting, right? And this really started to get me a little fucking flamed out. The way that they were talking about how the biggest what seems to be the biggest threat to EVE Online in terms of a security standpoint is not botting. For all of you out there who are really concerned about botting and just what the fucking devil it is and all that kind of shit, it's small, okay? It's small. Account hacking, big, okay? And the biggest thing that's affecting them in terms of account hacking are email addresses that are being compromised that allows account hackers to be able to get all the things, right?
That's the thing.
The worst thing about that is the fact that now with the extractors, before they just take all your assets. Okay, that's one thing. Now
they can take you.
Well,
they can basically take your character back.
But the thing that I saw is so these guys they're hacking the email accounts, and once you have the email account, then it's really easy to get access to the EVE account. But how are they finding these people's emails account? Unless it's people name their email account after their EVE character.
It's very easy.
A lot of the time is phishing. It's you go to a website, you put in iwantporn.com, and you go in and you sign up for it, and they basically there's your email. They've got your email, and then basically a lot of the people will sign up for a website with exactly the same password as the email for your email address, and then they've got you. Then they know you have an EVE account, and then it's
right. But my question with that is if you're setting up
authenticator,
but if you're setting up a scamming hacking porn site to steal people's emails, that probably doesn't mean I doubt very many of those.
No, you have to understand. You have to understand that when people hack, they just don't do it themselves. They sell it to other people, right? So when Yahoo is hacked, people were like, oh, I have all of Yahoo's username and passwords. I'm going to sell that to somebody. And then what they do is go through, take the passwords, take the usernames, go through all the emails. They're like, they have an Amazon account. Oh, they have an EVE Online account. Oh, they have like Target.com account. They try the same thing. They're like, oh, it doesn't work. Email me my password. And then they go in and hack. Well, yeah.
Okay, I was wondering. I was like, okay, so
hold on, very easy.
Because I want to respond to two things. Not just do they do that, right? But where they sell it to. They may have different people out there that specialize in different things. You may have bank hackers. You may have people that are looking to get into bank accounts. You may have people who specialize in hacking game accounts. But what you have at the core of it are people
$25 tip.
Are people who have compromised email accounts out there that can then parse the data and find buyers for the information that they have in those things, right? That is one thing, all right? And for people out there that are saying that I don't think botters are a problem, botters are a problem, okay? But what CCP is telling you motherfuckers is that it is not the biggest problem. So therefore, if it's not the biggest problem, just because you happen to roll through fucking Omist and find some fucking Nixes does not make it the biggest problem in the world.
It's a problem,
but the bigger problem are people getting accounts hacked, the assets that get taken there, the potential for the skill points that get taken there, the potential for those accounts that get hacked that have access to corporate accounts and all the way down the fucking line on those things are bigger in scale and more of a problem for them as a company than botters. Botters are a problem. Relax.
All right, real quick. Looney fucker just dropped $25 on us. I'll take a shot. But yeah, because I was questioning. I was like, I understand how emails can get hacked all over the place. They do all the time. But I was wondering, like, okay, email gets hacked by some random porn site, fake porn site or whatever. How do they know that you're related to Eve? Okay, they can see the emails. But then I was like, but if they don't play Eve, how are they going to know to get in there and get your shit? Okay, so they're selling it to other people that do that.
Somebody already said that. They're selling it.
So the big guarantee is they can make a lot of money off buying, say, 1,000 Eve addresses, because it's not just Eve they're doing it in, right? They're doing it in every other game where they just empty people out. So they'll buy a block of 100,000 email addresses, and then they'll scan those email addresses for Eve, WoW, Lord of the Rings, all these different things, and then they'll just go in a big swoop and hit them all. And then they just rinse repeat. When they finish with those 100,000, they just buy another 100,000, because like Rain said, when Yahoo went down, there was something like 600 million addresses available.
Exactly. Again, it's not to say that fucking botting is not bad. It's not to say that it's not something that CCP should be combating. Okay, what CCP in this report right here is talking about is account security. Okay, and account security is being compromised by dumbasses out there with bad fucking email security. Okay,
it's fixing things triage. That's all they're doing.
What I want to ask is this, okay? Bot security, how they combat that is different than how they should perhaps approach account security in this game. And one of the things that you notice in these things is, well, here, I'll give you a quote. Pellegro says that CCP does not want to put arbitrary restrictions on the EVE experience to prevent RMT. Okay? This comes down to the whole thing of whether or not they should fucking require two-factor authentication for anybody logging into this game. And then there are other things, not just logging into this game, but logging into your account to make changes. All right.
Hey, Derek, we just got another $25 donation.
Yeah, 2501. Thanks again, Looney fucker. Dropping the dollars.
It's because Matter.
I'll run out in a bit and I'll get the coconut vodka or the coconut rum or whatever if I have to. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for the fucking donations that are coming in tonight.
However, he really doesn't have to go through the show to do it.
Okay. I think tips went up when Rain got here.
The thing is, the CCP is definitely...
We got to take advantage before the terms of service.
No, actually what we need to do is we need to talk about the subjects that we have here, and thank you very much for the donations out there. Really, gentlemen. Ladies and
CCP is definitely looking for a position to incentivize people to use 2FA, because like they said, they don't want to, but there's a lot of suggestions that we made of what you could do to make sure people do it. But the world is moving towards more 2FA. Like it's definitely happening. And CCP is trying their own way of getting people to do it, but they're not there yet.
I think we had a discussion.
But you can use the Google Authenticator with
yeah, correct.
You can use all kinds of different, two-factor authentications. But if they don't demand it, if they don't require it, right?
That's the discussion we had when we heard
that was the discussion that we had.
So it's like if you don't have a sign up, don't jump in the lion's fucking exhibit at the zoo, and then somebody
I did like
if you fuck up on Steam, if you don't remember your goddamn password on Steam, guess what? You got to go through some fucking hoops, way more hoops than what we've got in this particular game.
Dude, try Blizzard.
Well,
Blizzard
right.
So Blizzard, whatever, yeah.
Do you guys not two-factor authentication? I think I have two-factor authentication on Steam.
I have it on
like as Steam Guard or whatever on your phone.
I have Steam Guard.
No, I don't have it turned on.
Password is not two-factor
authentication. I actually refrain from.
I actually don't know any of my passwords, so I use KeePass. So I literally don't know my passwords. They're 20 characters long, special characters if needed, but it's all like alpha, numeric, capitalized, non-capitalized, etc. And so I don't know my passwords. I can only get my passwords if I'm at my physical computer and I have to type a password into it to get into KeePass, to copy it, and then paste it into where I'm logging in.
There are all sorts of ways of combating this, right?
So I also have it backed up on a USB, which is also physically in my household. And all two-factor authentication. Like that's how autistic I'm
go.
Wait, what am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do?
I thought that was you talking. Maybe it was Sort.
People were just freaking
out.
Sort go.
What I'm trying to say is all of these things are great, but when they enact that, they have to enact a complete new company policy, which means they have to take the time to watch all the legal jargon or everything behind it. They have to write it up so they can do it. They can't just say, now you've got to do it, because if anything goes wrong, they're liable if they don't have the stuff in the background. So it's taking the company taking the time to actually integrate that, which is what they want to do. They have said they want to do that. But again, it's taking the time to do that while people are rabbling about bots, while people are rabbling about other things. The security team is not as big as it used to be. There are lots of things that are coming up at the same time. So it's not that they don't want to do it. It's just not as easy as enforce two-factor authentication. They have to enact lots of different things in the background as well.
Like, I'm going to read something straight out of the minutes. Yeah. Okay, and this is one of the 175 times that Sort asks about the warning threshold for accounts being extracted of their skill points. Okay, and I'm going to skip to the next thing here. CCP Guard asks if two-factor authentication being mandatory for the ability to extract skill points would be a large inconvenience for players. Aerith says that in like the 30 times he talked, or 45 times he talked during the whole summit, apparently, from the minutes.
Second highest.
Okay. Eris says that if a new device is being used to log into an account, then verification should be mandatory. The CSM...
Okay, so there's something that needs to be iterated on this, and this is not covered by NDA because it happened to me personally. Now, this scared the living fucking shit out of me. Now, I am a coalition leader, an alliance leader. I have trillions of assets in ISK. I borrowed a laptop from a friend to play EVE Online while I was in Iceland and do them summits on. I logged in from another location in Australia because I live in the outback. I had to travel to Brisbane to get the plane. I did not have to two-factor authentication when I got to Brisbane. I only had the two-factor authentication when I got to Iceland. That means anybody in Australia can log into my account without two-factor authentication.
You heard that, Australian hack?
That's something that's
in
the US.
Go, Zarbucks, go!
So you have two-step enabled, and it's just not working in different regions of the world?
It's I saw the thing. It's country to country. Like, so if you're in a different country, it will, but if you're in the same country.
Just to let me finish this. Like, I changed computers, and like, it's not in the minutes, and I'm not gonna, like, it's not covered by NDA because it fucking happened to me, and I'm gonna talk about it. That scared the fucking shit out of me. That it happened. And I was like, what the fuck, dudes? This isn't possible. You've got to fix this. And that's one of the things that, like, where there's gaps that need to be sorted about. And this is things that the security teams needs to work on instead of always other things like bots and OIDs. Like, those things are a problem, but account hacking is such a big problem and there's so many gaps in it.
Now, I have a quick question about two-factor authentication, mainly because I just don't use it for anything, because... now my mental assumption is that...
You can hack
are you saying your stuff's super easily acquirable?
Yeah, probably. But
your passwords.
But anyway, it's like,
move on.
because my two-factor thing, like, you don't have to two-factor authenticate every single time you want to log into that service, do you? Or is it every time? Because if that's the case,
you can set it to recognize devices.
If that's the case, I don't want it.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to go.
You can set it to recognize devices, Raiden. So like you can be
Okay,
like, every time I log in, it'll
I would be
recognize
fine
my
with
IP
that.
and
But
It's
even
like-
then, it should still ask you that anytime you log into a device that you've never logged into.
Yes,
right, okay,
it does.
I'm fine with that. I just I
Obviously
don't
not
want to
in a
have to like
different
every time I log into Eve, I have to wait for a text on my phone and put the
No,
code
no,
in.
it's not like that, dude.
so like
Fuck that.
I think if you
not
do
like
like
that at all.
Gmail, if you do like Gmail or some of those other like stuff that like requires two-factor authentication, then yeah. So I think like Steam, Gmail, some other stuff, but like apparently Eve, it doesn't matter if you're in the same country. But I know like I
mean,
can't
for
even
example,
like
Steam actually did ask. Like I logged into Steam in Brisbane on a different computer, and it asked me.
And it says,
I
"Who
was
the
like,
fuck are
thank
you?"
God. Yeah, exactly. Go to your email and find this fucking code. And I'm like, oh god. And that's like that's what shocked me, is that like that was the two-factor thing is much bigger than just enable two-factor is all I want to say.
Now, let's see here. In this same section, CCP Cemetery explains that the reason this is not being addressed right now is simply because there are many stakeholders which need to give their opinion on this, and the potential impact needs to be measured before any development can be started. In addition to this, CCP needs to know who would be the user of 2FA in the player base. Aerith points out that although CCP may not be able to enforce it, corp leaders can. And I found that to be really fucking interesting, where some organizations in Eve would sit there and say, you know what? Look, if you don't fucking lock your shit down, you're not getting rights to this, you're not getting rights to that. This is what's amazing about Eve.
That's not even something new. We asked that last year because from the CSM perspective, it's very helpful if we can tell if someone has their account on, two-factor authorization, because of the fact, hey, we're going to make you a director or a CEO in charge of trillions of ISK worth of value. We want to make sure that your shit's not going to get hacked into, and then the Alliance pays for it.
Yeah, so but the problem with that is we asked again this year, and they brought up an excellent point as a counter. Who do you give that information to? How do you know that you 100% can always trust them? Because you could put it as an ESI endpoint, but then that you're giving that information to someone else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
but
is
you're
extremely
not
fucking
giving
rare.
the login information. You are literally just having a check box that states.
That's literally the same thing. Like as soon as you give that information to someone else, that person could use it against you. And if they know that you're not two-factored, like that's like I want exactly what you're talking about, Sullen. I want all of my holding corp directors and CEOs of all my corps to have it. But how do you control that information? Because as soon as you give it to someone else, you're basically telling them that your account is not safe.
Sullen, when I see you out in Vegas, I want to look you in the eye and go, "You two-factored, baby?" Okay, no.
Why'd you have to go sexual with it?
Nice.
All right, but I actually do want to move on here. I do want to move on just a little bit, where it's not that far away, so that we can get those people out in the audience who know that we care about botting. This is like another one of those 175 Sort things. Sort wants to address the elephant in the room. Bots.
I thought we've already covered that, but all right, so we got more.
Well, no, we were doing the
Nope.
security.
This is a different elephant in the room. This is the elephant in the room at the time that Sort was there, and it was bots. There is no information which CCP can disclose today. Sort asks about the dev blog, which was promised. Sort believes this needs to be addressed in some capacity for the sake of appeasing the community. Pellegro chimes in saying the situation is unacceptable and he wants to see something more done about it, directly quoting the article, which has been a hot topic recently. Rest assured, it's something which Pellegro wants to see action on. What did you get a vibe? I'm not asking you to break NDA or any of that shit. Did you get a vibe on what you believe to be the level of botting is a problem in Eve versus this other thing, account hacking?
So personally, from a personal point of view, and it's something I always believe in as well, that the number of bots may only go up little by little, but it's more easily seeable now that less people are playing. So there's less people playing, so you can see the bots like easier in the game. There was a lot that was talked about the hacking. CCP likes to be coy about bots because the minutes can come out like this. Normally the security meeting is completely NDA'd. Like they won't talk about any of it, and they can't give us too much information because like it's an ongoing war. It's an ongoing war against bots. It's across every company. They work with other companies to things that they see. And one thing they said, and I'm like gliding the edge of the NDA, is that they obviously work with other partners in seeing like how they combat bots. So it is something they work on, but it's not as simple, clear. It's not as simple, clear cut as delete all bots, kill all bots. Like it's not as simple as that, and a lot of people think it is.
No, it's not. I mean, everybody would fucking love to see all bots die. I mean, here's the thing, right? Most players of the game want to see all bots fucking dead. Always, forever, just like bodies laying on the fucking floor in some like Slovakian fucking country or whatever. Okay?
I would actually, at some point, like to have a discussion about botting, because I don't necessarily agree. But go ahead, Dirk. Sorry.
So one thing I want to actually bring up though, Dirk, as well, is that a lot of the times, if they just went out tomorrow and banned all of the botting accounts, it wouldn't change, because all they would do is they would just edit their bot and come back in again. But if they can find the root of the problem, and they can find out it everywhere by watching the movements of each player, because just because they don't ban them doesn't mean they're not watching them. And that's one thing that a lot of the times comes up. Oh, they don't know about these bots. Of course they do. It's their job. But just deleting them won't save anything. It won't fix anything.
I actually highlighted.
You gotta capture them and turn them against so they roll up and as witnesses.
You're not gonna fucking roll up the goddamn mafia that's going on out there in these places, okay? And for everybody out there like who's concerned about botting and things like that, remember there are also sweatshops of like gamers out there that are basically hired in like shitlord fucking countries or whatever the fuck it was that Trump said in some fucking meeting, okay?
It's not even shitlord countries. There's actually companies in China that is all they do is just make bots.
I'm sure Norway has some botters.
Legal. I'm sure Norway's got some fucking
the cost of living in Norway is so expensive. Are you kidding?
Well, the thing with the botting has a bigger impact on the game, like the gameplay for everyone, but like the security thing has a bigger impact on the people that affects, because, and so that's like, not to bring it back to the security thing, but I'm just saying like botting, yes, it causes, obviously ISK inflation and all this other stuff.
No, hold on. Even when people say shit like that, okay? This is the problem with fucking botting, okay? This is the problem with fucking botting, right? Yes, there are botters out there, and yes, they are accruing things. Now, and this was a question that I asked Noisy yesterday, and it becomes a big question. What happens to the ISK after it's accrued, right? Now, look, a lot of these situations are directly related to real money trading, right? They actually have farms of this shit. But it's not just botting. You can have human bots out there that are part of fucking sweatshops that are playing EVE Online 24 hours a day and all that kind of fucking shit, okay, in some crappy-ass little room with a fucking internet connection, out there basically running fucking anomalies, maybe even fucking talking to you in your comms,
but
okay?
The weird thing is that those are okay, even like if it is the situation you just described that's fucking horrible, but that's actually okay. Whereas botting is not
okay, because
I'm saying okay in the games. In the games,
EULA, user A, user B, and user C.
I know, but I'm saying like in the games, EULA, in terms of service, like if you are sitting at the computer controlling the game's your in-game functions.
No, it's still fucking illegal. Okay,
How is it illegal? How is it illegal for one guy to sit for 24 hours a day? Why not? Why can't a husband and a wife share a game, play 12 hours a day each?
Wait, no.
How is that illegal? It's a husband and wife.
Rain. Technically, account sharing is against the rules. You cannot account share, even if you're married.
Account sharing is fucking go, sir.
Before we go into this illegal thing, none of us can decide what is legal, illegal, or legal. It's CCP's game. They are the ones that decide.
Illicit. And I'm sorry for using the term illegal. I don't want anybody to have the fucking, criminal justice system, whatever fucking nap-ass country they're in out there.
Doesn't matter. Nothing matters in this game if CCP doesn't decide it. So CCP decides what's wrong and right. Everybody, this has happened for years, and every time I've been on the CSM, people have gone, it's illegal to do this, it's bad to do this, it's illicit to do this. The only people who decide are CCP. Until CCP puts down the law on certain things, then there's no use you saying it's right or wrong, because they haven't. They're the ones that decide.
What I got a freaking kick out was the last sentence, was the last sentence in the whole section where it says bot ganking stream was suggested by CCP Guard, much like Jagex does in RuneScape. CSM practically cheered. Here's the fucking thing, okay? People running bots or people doing these things, they don't give a shit about your shame. They don't care if you fucking publicly shame them. They're just gonna come back because they have operations. This is not your mom and pop fucking botting operation. This is the problem. The problem is
Support
freaking
mom and pop
commercialized, industrialized
corporation
botting and
botters.
real money
The local
trading.
mom and pop botters.
You gotta support your local mom and pop botters. Like they make their ISK illegally, but they put really hard work into it, and you should buy from them and not from those silly corporation botters. Like they just fucking exploit the average man and just try to. They're just in it for the money. Like they just are trying to take your real life money in exchange for ISK that they just got by exploiting the average man.
I feel like this is the worst argument I've ever been a part of.
We should literally all go find their fucking hands,
that was
but
just
their
like
hands
a
are so
plan.
many.
Easy now.
Gonna move on into the next section, which has to do with PvE. Anything jump out there to anybody?
The big fights. They mentioned like, what was it? CCP so-and-so burger maybe mentioned like there was a big NPC fight, so there was just like, I guess friendly NPCs and then patrolling NPCs came and attacked them. And then there were drifters involved, and they're like, oh, did anyone see it? No, literally no player saw it, and then they just don't mention it. Like, what in the actual fuck? Like, there's all this shit in game that's happening with NPCs and PvE that's like actually interesting and engaging, and like it just is like not brought up. Nobody mentions it.
What system was it in? Where did they put it?
Just to clarify something, CCP didn't know at the time it was a game mechanic function. It happened because of game mechanics brought in. It wasn't something they made.
It was an accident?
It was an accident that happened
after
the fact.
They created an AI if people don't understand.
The NPCs in game are so smart they fight each other because players aren't killing them.
I've seen that in other games where they have aggro up to a certain radius from the other things, and when they cross into each other's radius, they attack each other. It happens in other games where you have, even rudimentary games, AI. Doesn't surprise me here. It's just fascinating. I wish I'd known about that.
Now, I'm gonna go here to one of the first highlights that I have in this fucking section, and it just happens to be Sort says that the issue with asteroid belts being empty, but the miners being present, and the time needed to wait for belts to respawn, but the potential of that happening and the miners no longer being there. This causes frustration. This goes down to the idea that NPC miners are not just freaking red crosses running around. You know, I know they're not red crosses anymore, people. I still call them that, though. Okay, not just running around an asteroid belt. They're not just rats, right? They're actually out there doing things, like mining the rocks you could have been before you showed up.
All right, so there's a clarification of that. The problem is, it came, and this is still in existence. There is a Satoyo in a system in the north right now that the belts have not respawned. So the Satoyo is known to be there, but the belts have not respawned in the system, so nobody can track the Satoyo because the belts, like, they just go to the belt and sit in the belt. That was the point of the tip, before we go off on a tangent.
Okay, but was there not also an issue of, you know what, look, belts in high sec where some of these things are going on and other places, you know, where it's like they come in and they actually mine stuff, so therefore there's less asteroids for you to mine.
I don't remember that coming up at all, to be honest.
No,
I mean,
I'm not,
that happens.
I'm not saying in the minutes. I'm talking about like in EVE reality. Is there not an issue with the fact of these things going in and mining stuff in belts, and if people aren't there to mine the belts, these what we'll call rats or NPCs or whatever will actually mine the fucking belts out?
So the miners only currently come into Toyo systems, like, or the what the fuck is the other one? The large Citadel one. I can't remember the name of it.
I thought there were NPC miners all the time because I live in Amamake and I'm like, oh, this agency thing wants me to mine, so I warp to Top Belt and there's literally no asteroids, and I'm like, no
I might be
person.
Wrong. I might be wrong, but I didn't come up at the summit at all that rats had taken all the and Steve would normally be the one that would bring that up, and it didn't come up as far as
Okay.
Maybe I'm crazy.
I thought that's what you were referring to there. Let's see here. Steve asked about the changes to reinforcement timers and how the AI will react to it. Larrikin says he's fine with AI attacking the anchoring structures and asks the CSM if they are opposed to it. CSM does not have objections. This was something that actually came up outside of the minutes as well, where I think it was, it was somebody the other day, a CCP dev that sat there, I think it was Larrikin actually, that sat there and said, all of this stuff about, NPCs that are attacked, they don't know what the next fucking timer is, so they don't necessarily know to fucking come back. They may come there, they may attack a structure, they may do these things, but they don't know to come back because nobody's monitoring shit, like, because the NPCs don't know that shit.
So it wasn't actually anchoring structures, it was anchored structures. Just a typo. So what actually happens is they'll actually attack an online structure in a system. If you don't like go and deal with them, they will just start going like Skynet and doing as much as they can in the system until you actually kill them.
Do CSM members reread the notes to make sure they're accurate?
I mean, yeah, but I can't like I did say that at the start. I can't like always check everything.
I mean, I'll chime in on that really quick. Yes, they will review it. Keep in mind, they've been in meetings for like 3 days straight. So when you review it, your mind's not exactly going to be in a state of, yeah, that looks good.
When do you review it? Do you review it after you're already home? Do you review
we have the ability to, like this year we had the ability to review it from when the minutes were finished in that meeting till like 4 days ago. But no offense, after a day of meetings, no one wants to go to their hotel room and read up on exactly what you talked about for the last 8 hours.
Agreed.
I feel like I'm about ready to bring up like one of those things we're gonna like really get into like a long-term discussion on, which is a multi-year discussion. Okay.
I want to point out that CCP devs also get to review these too, and you know I think it's hilarious that some of these notes came out and no one caught that Nick was Nick.
Nick
is Nick.
I got a response back from both CCP Guard and CCP Falcon that said, "Yep, we fucked up on that, but they're okay. Whatever. If people know them as Nick and Hooper, if you can figure out which CCP dev that was."
No.
Well, aren't all the CCP devs named anyway?
That's what I'm saying is that from now on, whenever something's wrong with the game, the ambiguous CCP dev that you need to get, oh man, shit's fucking up. Better send us something to CCP Nick.
It's like fucking Nick, man.
CCP Nick.
Yeah, but I thought the CCP devs all had their actual names out there anyway.
No.
Like on credits and stuff.
Apparently the story is when they write the minutes, like sometimes real names get in there, but in the cleaning up of the minutes, they make sure they put the CCP stuff in, and this just got missed in that one section.
Figured that was more of a just to like let everyone know who's reading, like who's saying what, because everyone knows like the names is like this in-game player that's a CSM member or this CCP dev. But I thought, like if you look at the credits, is there a credits of EVE Online? Like there should be credits of like who. There's there's no credits in the game.
No. That is absolutely horrible. Why would you allow people to have their real life names from working from a company? That's bad. That's bad.
Every single company, like when you finish a game and they roll credits, you see all the real life names.
No, CCP gets a lot of shit for it though, right? Like it's not like EA or I guess maybe EA or some of those other games. You're like, oh, I beat BioShock, and then it's just like John Doe or whatever in the credits, and then you can't go to Twitter and look up like John Doe.
That's every
you can't
game
go to
out
Facebook. It is, but like CCP is known as their dev names. Like Riot Games is known as their dev names. Shit like that.
An idea, the amount of shit that certain, let's take Fozzie for example. I know his real name. Not everyone does. But if they knew his real name, they could start stalking him on Facebook. They could start like finding out his address. They could start finding out his parents' address. The players in this game have been quite harsh to people that they know real life on, and I've had personal experience with that. I would never allow CCPers to ever have that.
Nobody is to go out there and look for who fucking Ralph is and who his mom is, because if you go out there and find out who Ralph,
Well, and that's the one thing though, is that the devs in this game are so connected with the player base that is so different. That it's so different than most of the games, because most of the games, like, yeah, you see the credits roll, it's like, okay, like graphic designer, Alfred. No, I was gonna say Hitchcock, but that's an actual person. Anyway, so you see like an actual name, it's like, okay, like no one is like connected with that guy, but like when you play games like EVE Online, you're connected with the devs, and so
they're not as connected anymore from the amount of controversy that has come from people attacking devs. People are not as close anymore, and that's simply because people go after the devs.
And well, right, not as close, like not as close, like maybe in like in a good way, but I mean like they are connected to the devs more closely, whether they talk to them personally or like respond to them on Twitter, like whatever. But it's like the devs in this game are much more connected to the player base because it's an ongoing game, and the devs are actively involved in this game and even play their own game.
How would you like to go on vacation and then mysteriously the guy across the hall from you in your hotel
is someone that's been stalking you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like EVE Online is a different social environment than most other games, and that's what I'm saying. So like, I can kind of see that. So I respect the fact that they do that, but I figured that there was some kind of credits thing where they're like, hey, here's the people involved in this game, and their real names.
So the credits generally happen at the end of a game. EVE is progressive and doesn't stop.
Well, there's no end, but I figured there was still like a here's the credits, like to give credit where credit's due. Like
there
if you want to,
out there.
It's like okay, if you're like okay, the graphics look good. Here's the guys that are graphically involved with this game. So that other companies might be like, "Hey, well, I'm interested to see that stuff."
That's great. I don't think that was part of any purpose. Look, I want to go on to the next. Sort asks about raising the bounties on smaller ships, specifically to incentivize running anomalies in the less lucrative systems to combat the clustered ratting systems. Suetonia says that some escalation mechanic for the farmed clusters in nullsec would be cool. This would also incentivize running sites other than the sanctums and havens. And you know what? I looked at this and sat there and said, I do not want to fucking incentivize higher levels of fucking ratting. I want to incentivize the fact that if you beat rats in the face long enough, the rats stop showing up to get beat in the fucking face, okay? I want to incentivize the fact that if you rape systems out there and burn your shit to the fucking ground, that guess what? You may actually have to go and seek out bounties someplace else. Let's not sit there and make it seem like, oh shit, nobody's running these cheap ass systems because this system is too crowded. Focus on the fact that system's too fucking crowded.
Sorry, your rant's hilarious because it's just like I'm just thinking like how every nullsec alliance is like, yeah, but how do you balance that for income?
So the reason for that was absolutely not what you would think. It was a complete opposite. The idea was to spread people out so there's more people to kill across multiple systems instead of just going to one system where everybody docks up. And I've tried to do this for years because you have Catch, for example, where everyone will rat in maybe 10 systems and then those 10 systems are going. But if for potential is that in certain systems with really low sec, they have these really small anomalies where people are going because they can maybe make 1 or 2 million per site. They'll still do it in a frigate, which means you'll have the chance of finding people in every single system, except for 10 systems.
Somebody said Dirk has, actually my name, fuck it, Jacob Grimes said Dirk has no connection to 60 to 90% of the EVE player base. You're right. 60 to 90% of the EVE player base are fucking dumbasses, and I don't have that level of fucking connection. Because if all you want to do is fucking farm shit all fucking day long, I have no problem with that. There should be places out there where you can farm shit all day, all fucking night, use your fucking bots, I don't give a shit. You just really shouldn't earn that much from it, because it's weak-ass fucking gameplay.
So Dirk, how much non-PvE do you do?
How much non-PvE? I do more getting fleets and push fucking F1 than fucking PvE because I don't need to do that. But I grew up in this fucking game doing PvE.
F1 monkey. How can you talk shit about Care Bears and high sec?
Doing fucking PvE as the form of income that I had. Okay, but now the way that back then, I grew up in this game when the only place you can shoot fucking rats was in an asteroid belt. None of this fucking anomaly horse shit, okay? Please, don't even fucking give me that shit, you lame-ass Kestrel pilot. This is not
I don't even fly the Kestrel.
She's a Tristan pilot.
What we have given everybody is fucking wide-open fucking faucets and fucking wide-open anomalies and as many people as you can pack into a system, and that's not even semi-realistic in a virtual world.
Dirk, you sound so upset that you can't fucking press F1 on some Care Bears. Like, get over it. Maybe when you actually have to hunt for your content and you have to actually create your own, then you can start bitching about everyone else's freely given content.
Hunting content's dangerous,
though. Be different. Back in 2010, they made a change to anomalies that actually affected the game today. It never used to be based like it was now. There used to be anomalies in every system. There was a potential for getting content in any system because the anomalies were there. When they changed it to sec status, the amount of space shrinked because, like you said, everyone moves into one system.
Yeah, I guess they were following that whole thing of making systems more valuable to fight.
They believed that they wanted to make certain space valuable. And in a sense, it did make people move around because we were living in Providence at the time, with NC Dot at the time, and we went and attacked the north, but that also had to do with Technetium moons. But it ruined the game. It ruined the game back then. Like, hands down, it ruined it.
Hold on. it ruined the game back then in certain regions, okay? So places like Tribute and shit like that became like went from being like decent places to shit places, okay? They've done a number of these changes over time, but you know where they've really ramped it up? They've ramped it up to the fact of we're just going to open the fucking spigots up everywhere, and we're going to let people have as much income as they can possibly fucking generate. And then, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give them ships that are even better at that shit so that they can fucking ramp their income up. So everybody can just fatten their fucking wallets and, like, you know, I don't know, do what? Rely on their fucking, like, Corp and Alliance SRP to give them everything back so all they do is, like, end up with fat wallets? It's ridiculous.
Dark, aren't you in Goons? Isn't that it?
Like, none of this had to do exactly, like, you're absolutely completely wrong about that. The fact is that a lot of these changes, what it made is made certain regions just uninvadable. Because people wouldn't invade, they wouldn't bother. Like, Catch used to be in the day when it was valuable and stuff like that. They would invade it because you would hold it, it was really close to Empire. It was really good. Nowadays, they're like, fuck, do I really want all those 0.001 systems? Like, why would you bother? And that was the issue in the game.
It's not even just Catch. I mean, you can even fly through Delve, and it's like half the systems, you might see 1 or 2 pilots. They're probably not ratting, though, because it's so worthless to even bother in those systems.
Yeah, the idea is to be able to spread people out, to have more places to fight in instead of just the same systems with 50,000 T2 large bubbles on them.
And I'm more than happy to have the fucking debate reign about what it is I do as an individual fucking pilot. But
I'm just giving you shit.
I know you. I know you are. But some people out there might not actually fucking think so. And when you actually talk about the fucking give and take and, you know, faucets and sinks of this game and shit like that, we get into a higher fucking level discussion. So you know, I'm hoping that you understand the fact that when we get into like discussion, if I say scarcity more than one fucking time, Caleb's gonna show up. Okay, I don't want to fucking do that. Okay,
only to say his name 3 times.
Yeah. So please, I said it once. We're not gonna say it again. I'm not gonna say fucking like scarcity. All right. I'm just saying that the way that they have built this game over the years, and you can go back and track the changes that happened, okay, it has been to give more and more. And there was a time when what we were talking about was needing a higher population density in order to you know, contract space, that we didn't have all this buffer space, all this fucking dead space that was out there, right? So that we didn't have regions that were completely fucking useless for things like shit, I'm not gonna fucking remember what the hell the name of the fucking region is. Outside, never mind, whatever, fucking, who gives a shit? They were all fucking like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 regions that were completely fucking useless, okay? Useless for like people to be able to make income in because they didn't have havens and sanctums and things like that, right? They had nothing in them. They were good for miners, but they were terrible for fucking generating radders. But then they went the complete opposite direction. And then you get into the whole question of, but what did that bring anybody? Well, it brought them just the ability to completely, like, get to where we are now with the escalation of, well, everybody's got fucking Titans and everybody's got super carriers and nobody knows what the fuck to do with them.
Can we move on?
At this point, you gotta ask Sort what he wants to cover, because we got 30 minutes left, right?
Well, as you guys say, you got 175 times that I told.
Can we talk about the pink skins? How often do pink skins come up?
Oh.
One time.
Twice now.
You know what?
No, twice.
No, not in the minutes. Not in the minutes. In the actual CSM Summit. Sort. How many times?
Because I want to move on, I'm not going to answer that question.
God damn it.
So, however, one of the things that did come up, and I mentioned it earlier when we talked about pink skins, that pink was going to come up again. And I don't know where it came up, but something about pink lasers. Do you remember pink lasers coming up, Sort?
No, not at all.
That was during the gala event when they mentioned it as being one of the potential drops. So they will drop skins. They won't only drop skins, though. Apparently they're going to drop. It looked like they were saying cerebral accelerators or other like boosters or like swag items.
What is it with this movement of making Eve ridiculous? Like where's that come
from?
How
is that ridiculous? What's ridiculous about pink?
Oh man.
I'm sure if you change your gamma, you can use radio lasers and the red will turn pink.
It's just like when a game, even the stuff. I mean, they risk making it unserious when they have Halloween events and they have Valentine's Day events and they start having cyclical seasonal things. Like
they have these events, but they're not.
I completely agree with that. I mean, you can look at like warships at this point, and it's just gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. Where you have like anime camos, like with.
They don't have any of that yet, though. It's like a slightly.
But that's what people are saying is that they're starting to go down that road. I'm not saying they shouldn't have pink skins. I am not saying that. But I think that they are right in taking it slow and looking like, do we want this in, and how is it going to impact? Because then you run down the same path that happened.
Guys, you've literally only got me for 30 more minutes. Like, is this what you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yes.
I'm just, yeah.
I think so. Our host left, so we're set on autopilot.
Yeah, so I don't know where he was in the minutes. What, section 3? What the fucking section's that?
The next is API.
Yeah, I don't care for that. Graphics, onboarding,
pink.
SOV, structures.
Stick with pink.
like some of this stuff. Like, I mean, I was interested in some stuff that was presented throughout here, but not a lot of these.
All right, Derek,
did you have a section you want to
gotta go soon, so go.
We have 25 minutes until this is over. Look, if there's some place you want to skip onto, we're not going to fucking talk about structures because guess what? The fucking 2.0 Upwell Structures release is coming on Tuesday. We've already talked the shit out of that. Fucking, I'm gonna be honest. The whole SOV and nullsec thing really didn't talk to me all that much. Although I will say this: for any of you out there who wonder how long is this structures thing going to kind of like go fucking on for, there've been people who have mentioned things like player-built Stargates, which I am pretty sure is not referenced one single fucking time in all of this minutes.
We didn't talk about it at the summit though. We talked about it maybe 10 minutes at the summit. It wasn't. It's not the. It's a. In my opinion, it's a Jesus feature.
But let me tell you this one quote that is in here. Aerith asks about observatories and if they are off the table with the current plans. Fozzie says they are years away, but not being dropped. They are years away, but not being dropped.
Okay, so before you guys pick up the pitchforks, let me just clarify this. The fact is that there are other structures that have to be done before an observatory does not replace any other structure in the game. So what they have to do first is they have to do Cyno beacons, they have to do jump bridges, they have to do gemmers. Those have to be done first, which means all the graphics have to be done behind it, all of the armaments have to be done behind it. Every single thing has to be done before then.
I was going to say, we have to get full parity with what POSs are before we can even get to things like that.
But some people out there thought that maybe observatories would like handle some of these things that they want to talk about, like I don't know, how to combat cloaky camping and shit.
I mean, no offense, it was mentioned that at FanFest, so you shouldn't expect it at all.
There's already a way to combat cloaky camping.
But what's great is to hear CCP Fozzie say the words, something is years away, which in Eve time.
Let me ask.
So the reality is they've gotten better at saying it's not something that's coming. It's something that's not coming for a while. Don't even bother asking about it. That, in my opinion, is way more respectful than saying don't worry, it's coming.
Is there an advantage to getting rid of the pause, displacing all the pause code and actually taking it out? Like there wasn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because so the reason that this is, and a lot of people don't understand this, is a reason that it is so important to get rid of pause code. Actually, literally has nothing to do with pauses. It has to do with the biggest piece of code in the game, and that is corporation management. You can't actually touch any of that code until you get rid of pauses. Because once pauses are gone, the last entity that actually directly touches corporation management is gone. They can take it out and remake it completely.
Yeah, you do remember that they took out, what was it? The captain's quarters, not because, first of all, people weren't using it very much, but it also alleviated a lot of, time for development or QC, whatever it was that was holding it up. But
no, they just didn't. No. They took it out because they never intended to iterate on it again. That's the reason they took it out. They never intended to do anything to it again, so they got rid of it.
Well, I understand that, but their stated reason was that it was also a huge weight on them because they have to check everything they build against it every time.
Well, they did, and so by removing it now, they're not having to check any type of graphical update. They don't have to check how it works against that. I mean, that and the fact that it's like. Because
so you're recovering dev time, right? By doing this
and the fact that it's been so long since they built that now, it's, you have other options you could throw into the game way easier than trying to build on that thing.
But that eventually
if
goes back to what I said.
Wanted to go that route.
That goes back to what I said at the start. Them doing that, they should do more often. They should do more often where they realize they're not going to iterate on something. They're not intending to change it. It's something that's just going to affect the game and have an adverse effect on the game. They should just get rid of it and move on.
Interesting.
Dirk, can I clarify something about the Sovereign Nullsec thing? The Sovereign Nullsec thing does not talk about to the value of that particular meeting. We came in and they basically came to us with some ideas that they had. They by the end of it, I think Fozzie had like 2 or 3 A4 pages of iterations and things they could do to solve. They were very open. It was a way more positive session that is given in the minutes. There were different things that they talked about wanting to do, and we thought about would be good to do. And small things that, because we all know that Sov is not going to be like this forever. They're not going to keep a toast of links. CCP hates them. We hate them. They've stated that on multiple occasions. They're just trying to think of something to put in for the certain amount of time to make it easier quality of life before they can get rid of it.
One thing I do want to bring up here in the Sov Nullsec, actually, I think it's in the structures part. Steve brings up Steve Renukin, people. We call him High-Sec Steve here. Little High-Sec Steve. Okay, but Steve brings up nullification and the aspects of the issue that CSM and CCP disagree on with this mechanic. Steve suggests a module that could be deployed in a system to disable the nullification capabilities of ships. Larrikin says the amount of exceptions here and complexity would be difficult to communicate. I'm sorry for making fun of that in this entire conversation, that Steve was the one that brought up nullification. Other people brought it up in other places.
The whole summit, Steve was amazing this year. I have been accused of calling Steve a fence sitter before, where he'll generally sit on the fence and not really have anything to say unless it's API or something from Empire. I can admit to that. This summit, he came out guns blazing and things that we never thought that he would. There was multiple times that we looked into the corner. We can't, unless it's in the minutes, I can't comment on it. And there were certain things that we were like, shit, Steve brought that up. What? And it was valid concerns.
All right. And there's a lot of people out there that talk about nullification. I mean, look, nullification is garbage in certain situations, right?
I actually hate it altogether.
Hold on. My belief is this. CCP recognizes how nullification can be absolutely fucking abused out there, okay, on a grand scale, right? But they don't care because they want freedom of movement for individual, small scale, the individual pilot out there to be able to move around wherever they want to, and therefore they're willing to give up the fact that yes, people will be able to have fucking anti-Entosis fleets filled with interceptors that can just buzz around and shit like that.
There's a whole tangent going on with nullification.
But they want to just give the individual without weapons the ability to move, because we gave them options. I remember, I think I pitched it to them back last year.
What about making Covops? What about making Covops the nullification?
You could literally give shuttles. You could literally give shuttles a module that they can fit or something that only they can fit, and they can then be nullified.
The point needs to be when they go into CCP, the CCP has to make the decision is, do they want nullification for combat or do they want it for travel?
I think
if they want it for combat, then accept that they want it for combat and give counterplay to it. If they want it just for travel, then give it to shuttles. That's the thing that they need.
Shuttles or Covops, because no Covops can
be No, Covops is
Covops and life science and stuff can be used as
Covops and shuttles are not combat ships. So
that's the case.
Yeah, like I'm fine with that. Like
the
fact that combat ships are allowed in nullification is a thing I don't like. But
a combat ship.
Put it on Covops because at least they have slots.
So the thing
because
that's the worst idea
Alpha should never be able to have a free pass on the Metro system.
The thing is with some ships, so with the T3s, if you're going nullification, the fact of the matter is you can still be decloaked. You can still be be tackled before you can warp. With Scepters, there's nothing you can do. You can't do anything.
Smart bombing gate camps is like the only way to kill Scepters like that, and even then it's like a 50-50 that you're actually going to get it. Like
your smart bomb and gate camp can't kill my scepter. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'll fucking warp right past you.
No. Talk to Greth. Greth has said.
Greth talks shit. He knows.
Well, yeah, but
can't kill me.
There are times where insta warping scepters have been killed with smart bomb. But the thing is, like, it's hard to do. You have to know what you're doing, and even if you know what you're doing, it's a 50-50. It feels like.
Actually,
you can get really lucky and smart bomb an imp from a fucking idiot who doesn't know how to fly it. So
the point is, guys, everything in this game has a counterplay, and scepters like that, and nullification does not have a counterplay. That is the point. If they want to say it's okay for nullification to have combat, then they have to develop a counterplay. Be that Hictor bubbles that stop nullification, be that Steve's idea. They have to go to the mountain and they have to decide what they consider. Because right now they haven't done that.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that whole thing. Like, yeah, because the nullification on T3s and scepters is just like, what do you do against it? Like, if they want to come into your system, there's nothing you can do.
All right, I do want to get into this thing here, which is the one thing regarding structures and shit like that that we have talked about. But since we have the fucking man here tonight, we're gonna fucking ask him. This came up in the summit. Sort asks if it is possible to extend the Keepstar targeting range to counter the tactic which avoids fights. Sort would want to see. Let's see here. Sort would want to see the fight being brought to the door of the Keepstar. Bullshit. Noobman doesn't feel right about that. Fozzie is going to consider that. Lyrican doesn't see a problem with extending the range. What I think we know is that in Upwell 2.0, the range is getting extended, but I want to give Sort the ability here to talk about why he thinks the range should be extended, what it means for super capitals, capitals, and subcapitals.
So the door is a very open subject, for example, right? I'm not saying it is impossible to take a fight 20 kilometers off a Keepstar tether. It's impossible. Keepstar's too powerful. It's not possible like that. What I do have a problem in is a tactic I used against the DRF. You jump in a Titan at, I think it's 290, you jump your faxes in at 60k, your faxes never take any damage, your Titans are too tanky to take any damage, and then you just pause the structure, and there is fuck all anybody can do about it. And you basically sit there and you are completely oppressive against person. My block is fucking massive. I have never had this problem against me. But to other people, that is a gameplay that is oppressive and it forces people out of the game. It's not a tactic that is smart, it's a tactic that's oppressive. This change will not affect subcaps. Because the fact is that the only thing that can hit subcaps is a DD. Like the subcap guns, if anyone really thinks that subcap guns are that powerful against subcaps, you're really not bringing enough logistics. Because it doesn't affect them at all. This is completely targeted at Titan reffing of Citadels. Same with Dread things. If you're going to come and you're going to go after someone's Citadel, be willing to lose something. Because you can't do it without losing anything, because that is not EVE Online.
So you don't think that this will affect subcaps in any way?
Why would it?
What if I've got Serbs out there at fucking max range?
Okay, so you believe it should be okay to target a 300 billion ISK structure with 200 Cerberuses?
But what are 200 Cerberuses going to do at range? Are they going to pause the timer?
Single Tristan will pause a timer. I've done it plenty of times on a
Tristan.
Oh, not pause. Sorry, I fucked up. It triggers the repair. It triggers the repair cycle.
Strongest Tristan.
Yes, it triggers the repair cycle. So now the 15-minute clock,
I get it. Okay,
which is one of the actual fucking gimmicks about this whole thing. Is
it's actually
set your fucking timer off before the other
literally
fleet gets there.
I will shoot so for example the Amamaki Keepstar. I really like to piss Blue Melon off because I'll undock, I'll target the Keepstar, I'll shoot one gun at it. It does like 20 damage.
Yes, and it'll make
repair
the cycle.
Happen.
We get that. I'm trying to get to what does this actually do for standoff fleets? And like Sort's idea is that this will only affect fucking Titans at range. But is that actually true? I mean, like, will it not
push the range of
Fortizars
out as well then?
So with Fortizars, the whole targeting range of all Citadels are going out. It's not just the Keepstar.
Yeah, so that's
every Citadel. The point is, right, okay, so the point is you can't, the point can't point that far, so you can still warp out. Like, that's the point, you can still warp out. It's not oppressive on subcaps. It's not at all, because you can still use every tactic that you want beforehand and just warp out again. If you don't like it, you'll still get DD'd, because yes, the DD doesn't have a range, but in reality, if you're going to attack a Keepstar and you're intending to attack a Keepstar, you are going to have reships available on a Fortizar on grid or something like that to reship yourself. And if someone is willing to use the DD on you as a FC, then they're stupid. They could use it on a chain of subcap logistics, take out 7 logistics if they've got the rig. Instead of just like everyone is basically looking at this from a literal sense of, oh my god, they can shoot us to 400. But the reality is the Keepstar doesn't do enough damage to subcaps at 400 kilometers as well. You can generally get repped up without a problem. And I mean, being like, there's other things that are a little bit oppressive, like the ECM, and that's like a tactics on its own. Difference of range doesn't affect anything other than how it affects capitals, because the difference is that now the capital guns on a Keepstar can shoot the triage. So you actually have to be like, you can't just be conservative and hide yourself away by putting these massive Titans on the front. You actually literally have to put something in range. And that, let me finish. In a sense, it also makes it a little bit too hard for the defenders, or a little bit too easy for the defenders, because they can just sit on the Citadel and tether. And so my thing is, one thing I want brought in is, if you are going to use the fighters on a Citadel, there has to be something that is more delayed than just abandon the fighters and dock. Because it's not fair.
But at least Titans outside of current max fucking range, right? Or even in your scenario, okay, are off a fucking tether. Right now, the fucking meta seems to be sit in the fucking cuddle zone and, like, you know, launch your fighters 1,000 kilometers away. And I don't give a shit about this new fucking mechanic that they have that makes you freaking, you know, vulnerable the moment you launch your freaking fighters. Until somebody out there actually jumps their shit on a fucking Fortizar and puts themselves at risk, which they would have to fucking do. At least that long range shit is out there where an opposing fleet can get to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's something that can be said about that as well. I mean, someone brought up one of the FCs in a channel that I'm in yesterday, said maybe limit carriers to 200 kilometers, and if they have the module, it gives you 500 kilometers extra. So you can't,
which is not all the way across, right? Like, yeah, they may be able to launch fighters, they may be able to send it, but they can't lock the target to have their fighters engage it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also said there should be a counterplay to it. Like right now, unfortunately, it's too easy for defenders, if they don't like the fight, to disengage, either dock or jump the fuck out. There should be something.
Why should anybody be able to fight within tether range? Why should they not have to actually move outside of the tether range of the structure they're on? Because tether meant to be.
Okay, so
tether was meant to be a replacement structure, like pod.
All right, hang on. Have you ever had to defend a Keepstar?
Yes.
Okay, so if you've defended a Keepstar before, you know that if you go to one side of the Keepstar and get bubbled, the other team will just go to the opposite end of the Keepstar and you can't do anything.
Because it's rather large?
Because that range is so big, right?
Yeah, and so it's actually not possible for some, other than carriers that can use fighters, it's actually impossible for a Titan to undock from a Keepstar and defend it. You actually have to move those Titans. Unless you're going against subcaps.
Hey, what is that range actually? Does anybody actually know what that range is?
It's like 100 kilometers. I think it's 100
I feel like it's more.
Well, what's funny is the stated range in the fucking like show info is like 10 kilometers, but like the overall size of the thing and everything makes it like it is just absolutely fucking massive.
Well, it's like a ton of things in EVE. Like the collision is always fucked up, right? Like you can be at 0 at something and you're not really at 0.
One of the FCs recently actually suggested that they 50% reduction in tether range on a Keepstar and a 25% reduction on a Fortizar.
Does that mean that's going to apply to like other structures for docking ranges, or is that just going to be
no, just tether? So the distance of tether from the start. So when you undock, you only have say 50 kilometers till you're outside of tether range, whereas now you have to go 100 kilometers to be outside tether range. Does that make sense?
I'm going to skip ahead because you know what? Look, we've got 7 minutes left, and this show is not really what.
Since we're talking to him about them, because I wanted to know about the whole fact that, like, you know, all right, we're about to start the structure 2.0 next week. One of the things that I don't agree with is the fact that, you know, we talked about this with the low power mode, and the fact that it is displayed to everyone. Anyone can see that, and I don't agree with that, and here's why. Because it'd be one thing. People are like, oh, well, you don't know the vulnerability timers. Yes, but we're displaying how many people are inside the structure. I can literally wait until that says 0, scan a structure to see its vuln timer. I can stare at it. I don't even have to do anything, and I can see its low power. I just think it's way too much information that you're giving to people now to basically be like, have a giant sign like, hey, come take out this structure.
I think the issue that they're having is, and this is something that I'm going to say exploit because it's not exploit, but I use overly, is just putting Fortizars everywhere for midpoints. And the thing is that they have to be able to say, okay, if you want to put the Fortizars in the midpoints, then you have to be willing to fuel them. Whereas if you haven't fueled them, then you should have the ability to lose them quickly.
I agree. I just don't think that you should be able to see that from the get-go and be able to say, hey, look,
yeah, but if something was on low power, like if you put your house on low power, somebody from outside would be like, hey, there's no lights on.
No, we're going to say that's a fucking poorhouse. It's just a poorhouse.
Well, it has probably less power.
I think it's a little different than that. You're going to post a sign saying, I have no power and my doors are all unlocked on your front lawn, basically. Like,
well, I mean, it's not like the doors are completely unlocked. I get it. It's easier to hack, but I don't know. I think it should be visible that it's on low power. If it's at full power, it would be visibly different.
And I don't.
Using like a logical way of looking at it, yeah. Like I get like in a game sense, sure.
Using the house idea is really, really bad. Using the idea of a military base, if the military base's lights are open, it's more likely to get attacked if it's on. If it's on, people know it's active and people won't attack it. If it's off, then people will attack it.
It depends on how you're looking at what a citadel is. Is it primarily a military base or is it a home for people?
It's
like
Eve. It's Eve. It's a military base.
Well, I guess. Yeah. It is the Castle of Eve.
Yeah, it's like the lore when it keeps I just like how many millions of residents died. Like the lore side of it. It's kind of more of a home.
It's literally classified in the name. What does the name Citadel mean? It's not home.
It means a place where people that have Fitbits on their arm are running around.
Well, the thing is,
there's a big gym in there.
Sort, you have a Discord that has a lot of FCs in it, right? What's that called?
Correct. The Blue Donut.
Right, and so you talk with these guys every day, and do they provide you with like a list of once you get on the CSM?
95% of what I take to the CSM comes from them. So
okay.
The CCP, sorry.
So it would be fair to say you're not necessarily only the darkness representative, but you're also kind of the FC's representative to
correct. CSM. And it's not alienated to people that might think it's one-sided. It has people from every alliance in the game in there, including Goons.
Right. So that's just it's a strata of people. It's not necessarily political. It's more this is FC's, their concerns, things they think about.
Yeah, and it's if I think it's also sanity checks because sometimes the FC's will say remove tethering completely. And that could be fine for that particular FC, but you then sometimes have to ask them, well, what about this particular thing as a counterplay? And they're like, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to remove tethering completely. So it's not I don't take everything that they say. It's definitely sometimes there's a sanity check between me and the other FCs and the FCs and themselves.
I don't say this very often, but who's on after us?
It's me, and it's actually an important one.
You say it all the time, Dirk.
Oh, we just got a $15 cheer from Whimsical.
$1,500 bits.
Whimsical.
That was meant to be a fucking joke.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to
you
find
call
out who's
Whimsical
on after us,
too?
just in case we roll 20, 30 seconds or like
Whimsical.
something like that.
So it's not just me. It's 5 of the streamers from INN. We're doing a Battalion 1944 squad up night.
It sounds really fucking
That's
cool.
a new game, right? That's
a new game.
Right?
And there's going to be an unveiling of
that sounds really cool.
a new
Don't fucking
INN
waste
intro.
time now unless you want me to burn into the fucking after thing. Okay,
Good, you shut up, man.
Wim, thank you very much. Okay, yeah, but we actually do need to fucking move on here so that we can actually get to the fucking your rollout thing. Look, because this is not the show that you rely upon for fucking detailed fucking information regarding, I don't know, like ship stats and like things that smart people fucking do in this game and things like that, right? I do want to move off into FanFest, but I do want to reiterate what Matterall was trying to propose there with what he was saying. There's a lot of fucking, what I am going to say right now is shit talk about how much fucking Sort talked a bunch of fucking shit and stuff like that up there. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you read these fucking minutes, Sort asks the questions that most people would want asked. I really wonder where the other fucking CSM were in these minutes when it comes to this. And I'm sorry for those of you out there who want to pick your fucking tribe and sit there and go, man, Sort's a fucking dick, fucking talk too much. Okay, the fact of the matter is that he actually asked fucking questions throughout the 77 pages of this fucking minutes thing that should have been asked, should have been answered. There should have been more minutes that actually fucking dealt with how this shit all went down. But I do want to move off into FanFest. I want to like talk about.
Can I like
things.
just say something before you like turn like the whole CSM
he
to
did
me?
mention though the fact
like,
that
literally...
he asks things that already exist in the game, so it's
yeah,
easier to put
don't
in
like
minutes.
before you turn the whole fucking CSM against me. All of the other CSMers, like they did have the chance to talk, and a lot of them did talk. There's
Yes,
not to
they
say
did.
that
The
they
minutes
didn't
don't
talk at
reflect
all.
that.
Like I just want to say that like
Radowski, thanks for the sub, man.
Council,
Much appreciated.
Stood up and had their say, and were very orientated on the things that they could talk about. Just because I talk the most doesn't mean that those CSMers
This is
shouldn't
not
be
about you
respected as
talking
well.
the most. This is about people saying that you talk too much and cock blocked other people. And you know what? When you read these minutes, that's not what fucking happened. Okay? But I do want to move off into FanFest because we are fucking community oriented about this show. I want to say this. Curtis, this is the way the fucking minutes start off. Curtis starts by saying that the sales of tickets are better this year for FanFest than last time and most times in the past. E-Vegas, motherfuckers, sold more tickets than FanFest for the first time last year. FanFest this year is looking to take the lead again. And you know what? I'm going to say this right now. If they take the fucking lead again, you know what's going to happen to fucking Vegas this year?
Get bigger.
We're going to blow that bitch out.
God.
You can bring what you want to their to their 15-year fucking anniversary on the fucking rock in Iceland, okay? But guess what? Then we will blow fucking Vegas bigger.
Okay,
because that's just the way it fucking goes.
Bigger than a 20-inch mouse pad.
This FanFest is the 15th anniversary, and 2, this is the last big FanFest before they do on the road, as they say it in Vegas.
And this FanFest, they'll do player swag as well, so make sure you get that there, whether you give it to a friend to send or send it to CCP yourselves. There's more information in the Discord within the dev blog. And I think we're out of time.
And you know what? I know that people out there care about like fucking, pub crawls and all that kind of shit. Guess what?
We're gonna put open condoms in there.
Freeloaders fucking suck no matter what thing they're on.
Like they're not gonna
okay,
work
so
very well.
suck it the fuck up. Go on the fucking pub crawl. Pub crawls are fun, whether they're in Vegas, unless they're in some inspired thing, like I don't know, going to a fucking pinball factory or whatever the hell it was a couple of years ago out in fucking Vegas.
Pinball Hall of
Don't do
Fame.
that. But the fucking pub crawls are fucking cool. Pay the money. Those just don't let fucking freeloaders freeload on it. Freeloaders suck in all things. They're literally the bottoms of Eve.
It is now time
so
for DC.
No. Just before you. Okay, so the one thing about the pub crawl, they have an amazing plan for this year. It's not going to be possible to freeload. That's all I'm going to say.
So
It's 'cause
now
it's
it's
gonna
time
really
for
fucking cool. You're gonna go
DC
off to bars
show.
that other people
Yeah.
aren't.
We got to go.
Now it's time for DC show. So
We gotta
later,
go, 'cause
bitches.
DC's
All right,
gonna have,
DC's
the
up.
pub crawl
Also,
1944.
I'm sure that they'll be continuing this talk on Talking Stations with Matterall on Sunday morning, so you guys should check that out.
We're running up Battalion 1944 with a bunch of streamers next. And
Are you gonna be doing tofu cook through?
All right. Have fun, man.
Yeah. All right, we're out.
Later,
Shots to
bitches.
the road. Later, bitches.
Thank you everybody for listening tonight.